Hello, my name is Rodney. I want to put together a small series of guitar tutorial videos, mainly because I've been asked by a few people, to help them learn to play the bass or help them learn to play the guitar or play lead or whatever it may be. And I'm no expert of all things, but I have been playing guitar for 30 years. And here lately I play the bass more than I play anything. But I want to start this series with a foundation of bass guitar, and then I want to move up to guitar. So if you're interested in playing the bass, these first 3 or 4 videos will be pretty much everything you need to take off for that. If you're interested in playing the guitar, playing lead guitar, these first 3 or 4 videos will still be a foundation for what you need, and everything you learn can be applied to the guitar and then taken to the next level. So I really encourage you to watch this video and then stay tuned for the rest of them, and we will just go through it all. So without further ado, let's get started. I never like watching videos where people just talk too much, so I like to get straight into the content. So I'm going to use this dandy little bass. It's my wife's bass. When I first saw it, I thought that's just a little junky, cheap bass. But her grandmother got it for her, so it's pretty sentimental. But I needed a 4-string bass, or I needed a bass, and this one was at the church, so I got it and we recorded with it. And you know what? It really sounds good. These strings are old, the bass is old, but it sounds good on a recording. So I'm going to use it for the tutorial part of this. So the first thing you need to know, if you're wanting to play the bass or wanting to play the guitar, or maybe you already play the bass or the guitar and you want to learn some extra things. So this next minute or so may be a bit too simple if you already know this, but I have to assume that you don't know anything, and then we'll move on to the other things. So there's 2 ways on a guitar, any stringed and fretted stringed instrument, to change the pitch of the notes, and that is those 2 methods is the tension of the strings and the length of the strings. So obviously the tension is adjusted with the tuners. So I can turn the tuners in, I guess it would be a counterclockwise motion if for these inline tuners, and the note that the pitch will go up as the string tightens. I can go in a clockwise motion. String gets looser, therefore it gets lower. And then that's very important to have your instrument tuned properly. So I don't want to get into that in this video. I'm sure you can find other videos about tuning your instrument, but I highly recommend just getting a little tuner, like this little Snark tuner that just clips onto the headstock, and it's upside down, but that's a G. And then if I loosen the string, and you can see that it should go. I've got it upside down. So I can turn it until it says G, and it is in the green. So obviously having a hard time. There we go. All right. So if you don't want to go out and buy one of these, I think they're about $30 for this little thing. If you don't want to do that, you can download an app called Guitar Tuna. There's probably 100 different apps for tuning instruments. I think I've used that one. I think it works pretty well. So I do recommend that. So it's very important to know what the strings are. In this video, really, all you really need to know is the top string. It's an E string. So, and we're going to start with that, and I'm going to show you basically all of the major notes, and probably we'll touch on some patterns. So the important thing here that I want you to get out of this video is knowing the notes on the guitar. So in order to make these notes, obviously I need to make these strings vibrate. So when I strike the string, it begins to vibrate and it makes noise. I can stop the vibration by putting my finger back on that. So I encourage you, if you're just getting started, obviously this might be something that'll come later. If you've been playing for a long time, you may catch on to this a little better. It's very important that you keep the strings muted at all times and until you go to use it, because otherwise it will make all kinds of racket. You know, I can hit a note down here and it will make this A string vibrate. So even though I stopped the note that I struck, you can still hear that ringing in the background until I mute that string. So also if I hit hit it anywhere, it's going to make noise. If I just touch it, it's going to make noise. So it's very important that you keep the strings muted at all times with either this hand. Sometimes I like to put a thumb on the top, finger on each string. That way I can control which ones are sounding and which ones are not. You can also control it with your left hand. If it's a fretted note, I can simply lift my finger and not completely off. If I lift it completely off, it's going to make noise. But if I just barely lift it up but keep it on there so it cannot vibrate, it mutes the note. It's a very important thing to practice on the bass. It's something I think we don't tell people about enough, and maybe you just learn it and figure it out. But it makes all the difference in the world, because it makes it a clean bass line or a clean guitar lick, or it's a little easier on the bass than it is a guitar because you've got less strings and they're spaced out a little more. So it's easy to keep all your fingers on the strings at a time, or just lay it across the strings. So on the notes, what we want to learn here is what I call a 3x3. So there's three, and what I mean by that, there's these dots on the fretboard, and these dots represent the fret position. So I said earlier that there's two ways you can change the pitch. One is to change the tension of the strings. The other is to make the string shorter. We say, well, how do I make the string shorter? Well, if I hit these strings open, and that's what it means if I just hit the string, then not using this hand at all, it's an open string. Then the length of the string is from this tailpiece here, where the string goes to the back and over the tailpiece, and it's resting on that tailpiece, and then it's going all the way up to what's called the nut, and it's resting on this nut before it attaches to the tuners. So on the in order to make the string, so that is the length of the string. In order to make the string shorter, I'm going to put my finger behind one of these metal frets and cause the string to be, instead of being from here to the tailpiece, it's going to be from that metal bar, which is called a fret, to the tailpiece. And so if I put my finger here, it's higher than this. Or if I put my finger down here, it's higher. So, and of course, the higher I go up, or I can go down a string, which is tuned to a tighter tension, and keep getting higher notes. So that's the fundamentals of how to make notes. So now, how do we know what these notes are? Back to the 3x3 method, we're going to use these dots as a reference. And so I'm going to, right now, this method works on the first three dots. Beyond that, it does not. We'll have to get into that later. And then we're going to take into account the first three strings. So this is technically called the fourth string. For this video, I'm going to call it the top string. So from the top string and the third and the second string, we're going to focus on those. We are not going to worry about this bottom string, the G string, in this video. Honestly, I played bass for years and never used that string, so it is very useful, and you can we will use it very quickly in this tutorial. but it is not for the purpose of learning notes. It's not that important right now. It will be on the guitar, but on the bass, we want to focus on the top 3 strings. And starting out, we're going to do these first 3 notes. So when we get to the first dot, top string, and I place my finger behind the fret so that it shortens this string, so it's from the tailpiece to the 3rd fret, and then strike the string, that is a G note. Okay, so so now somebody says, give me a G, and you're playing the bass, there you go. All right, so that's the G note. Something else to whether you play instruments or not, if you know anything about music or not, here's you need to understand that there are 7 notes, 7 major notes. There's sharps and flats in between that, but there's 7 notes, and they're letters of the alphabet. So you have A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Once you get to G, the instrument doesn't stop. Obviously, it continues. So it goes to A again, but it's a higher A, which is called an octave. So so when I do this G note, if I want to, for this 3x3 pattern, we're just going to use the alphabet. So if you don't know the English alphabet, it's going to be difficult, so learn that first. But G, after G, we're going to go back to A, and we just go to the next dot on that same string, and that's A. We go to the next dot on that same string, and that's a B. So then we're going to go down. So I said we're going to stop at that 3rd dot because that pattern doesn't continue. You can't just keep going following the dots, but you can do that up to this 3rd dot. So but to continue this pattern, we're going to go down to the next string into the 1st fret, and that's a C. Remember, this was B. What comes after B in that English alphabet? You guessed it, C. All right, so the next is we just stay on this string now, and we move up to the 2nd dot, and that's D, and then the next dot is E. Again, we're at the 3rd dot as far as we can go in this exercise. So we'll go down a string back to the 1st fret, and that's F, then G, and then back to A. So you notice here we had a G here, and we started on G. So that's what I was talking about, an octave. It's the same note, but it's an octave higher. So again, we have G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Okay. At this point, if you want to pause this video and practice that and learn that and memorize that, I highly recommend it. If you've got it, that's great. Let's keep going. All right. So in the purpose of this video, I wanted to learn some patterns. So we saw one just a minute ago when I ended on this G note and I started at this G note. Well, there's a pattern, right? That's an octave. So I can, the easy thing on the bass is finding an octave. So it's one of the easy things. Honestly, these patterns makes playing the bass pretty simple. It's no matter where you're at on this fretboard, you can always go over 2 frets and down 2 strings. So first thing we learned was 3x3, right, to find all the notes. Well, this is a 2x2. So I'm gonna, if I'm at this note and I move 2 frets over, 1, 2, with my other finger, and then I go 1, 2 strings down, I've got an octave. Now I can go. I said we're going to use this G string. Well, now's the time. All right, we're going to go down to here, which is a C note. G, A, B, C. Okay. C, again, 2 frets over, 2 strings down, there's another C note, so there's an octave. I can move it up to D is an octave, then E is an octave. I can go up to here, it's an octave, I can go here, I can go anywhere. So that's something, and it's not just a 4-string bass. So I've got a 6-string bass sitting back here. It's the same thing. So the 6-string bass has an extra top string and an extra bottom string. It's some 5-string basses are a lot more popular than a 6-string. They have an extra top string. It's a lower string. Again, same thing. If I want to do an octave, if I'm on this string doing a D note and I want to do an octave, I can go up 2 frets, back 2 strings, and I'm at an octave on that top string. So if you had they make 7-string basses and 8-string basses, and if you had a 23-string bass, it'd be the same thing on any string in any position. You could go over 2 frets, down 2 strings, and find the octave to the note that you're playing right now. That's very important because well, for one, it helps you learn that many more notes. All right, so you just learn this is C. Well, you know that's C as well. You learn this is D. Well, you know that's D, and this is E. That's E. So, and then you can spot check yourself as you go through these. You say, well, I think this is A. Well, let's go up 2 strings, over 2 frets, and make sure you don't go the wrong way. All right, so if I'm here, I'm gonna go. If I'm going down strings, I also have to go down the fretboard. If I'm going up strings, I have to go up back up the fretboard towards the nuts. So if I'm down here and I want to find the lower octave, I'll go up 2 strings and back 2 frets and find that octave here. So that helps you learn where you're at. You don't necessarily have to know where you're at. I know I've seen bass players before. You say, what key you in? They say, I have no idea. So what they did is they used their ear to find something that sounds right, and they start playing there. So that'll kind of take me to the next, and I could start a new video, but this is all about patterns. So to learn our notes. And we will probably go into this deeper in another video. But if you notice in these octaves that I've got, it's almost shaped like a rectangle. It is shaped like a rectangle, okay? So I've got these 3 strings, and I've got my octave here. I can literally play inside this box, okay? It's not a true scale to do that. So there is but you can play inside that box to a certain extent. So the next thing I think that is important to realize, once you find where these notes are, there's to compose music, there has to be every key has 7 notes in that key. So if I wanted to play a melody and I was in a major chord or a major key, I could play a major scale and find the melody to that song in that scale in majority of the cases. So the next thing we want to learn to some extent is a major scale. So if I go back to this G note, we talked about this box, okay? That gets you inside this the octave, but the problem is, in that little box exercise I did, there's a note in there that doesn't belong, and that's this F note. So we can use that from time to time, but it's not in the G major scale. But you're not always playing in G major, So the scale looks something like this. You can use your pinky if you want to. I think did I do that right? Yes. Okay. So if you're a beginner, that's really hard. But here's the thing. I want to break this down a little bit. You don't have to learn the scale right now. You don't have to know everything about that scale right now. But here's the important thing to realize. Okay, I'm in this G note. Okay, G note is the first note in that scale. A note is the second note in that scale. Now by going down here, it's another pattern. Okay, this is the same as this. It's you can always go down a string and back 5 frets. That's how we get the tuning song. If you've ever known the tuning song, okay, you go to the 5th fret, it's the same as the next string open. But that doesn't stop at the 5th fret and open, it continues. So I can go to the 1st fret, it's the same as the 6th fret up here, or the 7th fret is the same as the 2nd fret on the string below it. So that's another pattern, okay, that continues everywhere, on every string, on every fret throughout the instrument. So if I do this G scale, I can do this G, A, B, but instead of moving my hand position up here, I can simply go down to there. If you need to move your hand a little bit, it's okay to move your hand back to get to that note. If you don't want to stretch your fingers that far, or can't stretch your fingers that far, but it's good to learn to stretch your fingers out and get used to doing that, so you don't have to move your hand around so much, and you can be a faster player. But as something to keep in mind, you can always go up a step, and this is called a whole step. So notice I'm skipping a fret in these cases, and even down here I'm skipping a fret, and the reason I'm doing that, I'm going up a whole step. Each fret is a half step, so I'm going up a whole step when I do this. So when I go down to this, that's a whole step. It's the same as going up a whole step. I can go down a string and back 3 frets. So if it's not directly below it, I go back 3 frets, and that is a whole step. So so if I go a whole step from here and then a half step, I'm at the C. Notice that's the first 3 notes, or 1, 2, 3, 4 notes rather, in the major scale. That means this is the 4th to this. Okay, that's going to be important. That if I'm in G and I need to know what the 4th note is to a G major, well, it's a C. Okay, so and then after that we go up another step, and that's a 5th to the 1st note of the scale. So I've got the 1st and the 4th and the 5th all right here together. So a G, a C, and a D. In this case, if you're a musician already, you probably know that G, C, and D are in the key of G. So that's the 3 basic chords in the key of G. And the reason being is they are the 1st, 4th, and 5th notes in the major scale. So when I 1st, 4th, 5th, this is G, C, D. Now, keep in mind, I've got another octave right here, right? So not only is this G, but this is G. So I can also go up to the 5th. So here's the patterns, okay? No matter where I'm at, whatever note I'm on, I can go down and find the 4th note to that, okay? If I'm playing, if that's my 1st note in the scale, so I'm playing in the key of G, I can always just go down 1 string and be on the 4th note, okay? Likewise, if this was a 5-string bass, I could go up and find the D note or the 5th note to this key. But if I go to the octave, I can go up, and that's the 5th. So the simple pattern is that if no matter where I'm at, I can go down a string to the 4th, and I can go up a string to the 5th. Why is that important? Because then I can play a song, right? I mean, I can then, or there's the G, okay? Okay, so there's a song right here. Without moving my finger anywhere, I can play a song right here. Okay, so if I don't want to use this note, I want to use the lower note, well, I can always go up and back to find my 4th note. Okay, so if I'm on the G, and okay, so it's G, C, G, D. Or if I'm playing in this G, I can go down to my 4th and instead of going up because I can't, I can go down and over 2 frets to the 5th. So there's another pattern. All right, so there's my 4th note, 1st note, 5th note, 1st note, 4th note, 1st, 5th, 1st. All right, so you've learned how to play a song. So if this is difficult for you, take your time, pause this video, go back and look at it. We're up to about 25 minutes. I'm going to stop, and we'll continue in the next video. We'll cover some runs and some basic rhythms. But these patterns will help you to learn where these notes are. So it's not just all about memorization, even though that's great, but you can not only memorize but know why these notes are where they are. So I hope you like this. Feel free to comment, share, let me know if I helped you at all, or if there's other things that you have questions about that I can be helpful with. Put a comment below, and I'll do my best to help. So be on the lookout for the next video in the series. You may want to subscribe so you'll get notified, or if this is later on you're watching it, it should be the next one. It should be showing up right here. Yeah, right there, I think. All right, have a great day.